Good evening, welcome. I'm John. I'm a bookseller at Literati Bookstore in downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're so pleased to welcome Katie Zhao back to our At Home with Literati series in support of Winnie Zeng Unleashes a Legend in conversation this evening with Fan Hoang. Just a quick webinar overview for our attendees. The chat is closed, but you can keep the chat window open. I'll be sharing links to purchase books from tonight's authors throughout the event. Q&A is available to you, however. That's on the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to use that whenever you have a question. I'll ask a selection of your questions, at the conclusion of the conversation. And live transcription is available to you on your toolbar as well. And if you're watching us later on YouTube, there are always links to purchase books in the description directly below me. And right in the corner of the screen here is a subscribe typewriter button, which you can click to subscribe to all of our At Home with Literati events, so you can catch them when they become available over on our channel. And as a reminder, you can shop for more books at literatibookstore.com to have shipped to your home anywhere in the United States. And if you live in Southeast Michigan or the Ann Arbor area, our doors are open to the public for in-store shopping. But most of all, we'd just like to thank you for your attendance this evening or this morning or early this afternoon in Van's case, or much later this evening, depending on where and when in the world you may be joining us. So without further ado, allow me to introduce tonight's author and our moderator. Katie Zhao is a graduate of the University of Michigan, where she earned a BA in English and Political Science in 2017 and a Master of Accounting in 2018. She's the author of the Dragon Warrior series, How We Fell Apart, Last Gamer Standing, and the Winnie Zeng series. She's a passionate advocate for diverse representation in literature and media. Speaking with her this evening, Fan Hoang earned her bachelor's degree in English from the University of New Mexico and her master's in library information science at San Jose State University. Girl Giant and the Monkey King was her debut novel. She was born in Vietnam, grew up in Orange County, and now resides in Los Angeles with her husband, kid, and 2 dogs. Please join me in welcoming Katie and Van into your living rooms.
Yay! Hello, welcome everyone. Yeah. So I'm Van. This is Katie. You're on this side of the screen too.
Yeah. I think so. I'm not
sure. So Katie, this is like our 3rd event, right?
I know. You're probably sick with me.
No. I feel like we're like best friends at this point. And then I was saying earlier that at this point we should just like start a podcast together, because just imagine listening to us talk about dumb things for hours. It would be so fun. But
I would listen to it. I don't know about anyone else.
Like boba and anime, which is so I'm gonna start us off with some questions. First of all, I loved the book Winnie Zeng. It was so funny and just so cute. Yeah. Pretend. Pretend. It was so cute and oh my god. So the last time we talked, I kind of was mentioned this other book called Blackwater Sister, and it was about this girl who gets haunted by her dead grandmother. And then I read your book and was this is the middle grade version of that.
That's really funny, actually. Yeah. I still haven't read that book, but now I'm I really need to.
Yeah, it's really good, but it was oh my gosh, so many similarities, but both really, really good. So yeah. Okay, let's start us off. So our first question is, what was your inspiration for writing this book? Did you have any intentions with the story when you started writing it? Or do you usually just write something fun and then let the story take over?
Oh, that was a long question. Yeah, so I'm forget the end of it, but let's start with the first part.
What was your inspiration?
Right. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I debuted with a middle grade fantasy novel called The Dragon Warrior, which was inspired by Chinese mythology and Percy Jackson, and had a very structured quest narrative to it. And it was a fantasy that I would say had more secondary world elements than contemporary elements, even though it was still set in our world. A lot of the fantastical events just took place in made up places. But this book, Winnie Zeng Unleashes a Legend, takes place a lot closer to home. And that was the sort of narrative that I wanted to capture. I wanted to write a middle grade novel that still had some magical elements, but primarily just captured an experience of a Chinese American girl growing up in the US, in Michigan, where I grew up. But actually, let me give a quick pitch of this book so
Oh
people
yeah,
know what
sorry, we
I'm
should have
talking
started off with
about.
that. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, it's all good. I mean, I feel like your question set it up pretty well. Like
Yeah.
inspiration, now we like talk about the book. So Winnie Zeng Unleashes a Legend follows the story of a 12-year-old girl named Winnie Zeng, who is just starting middle school. So she's just started 6th grade, and all she wants to do is like get through the year, survive middle school, and like, you know, just like get good grades, eventually like defeat her arch nemesis, this annoying kid named David, academically speaking. She wants to defeat him academically. And then one day she finds her deceased grandmother's old cookbook, and she makes a recipe from that book. She makes mooncakes, and they're magical mooncakes. And in the process of making them, she unleashes her dormant shaman powers. She also unleashes the spirit of her grandmother, and she unleashes evil spirits that now she has the responsibility of like going out and capturing. So then the rest of the book sort of follows her struggle with like, you know, wanting to do her best in middle school, because as everyone knows, like middle school is a lot to handle. But now she also has to like save the world and like learn how to use her shaman powers essentially. So yeah, I guess like some other inspirations were just like really funny, like quirky middle grade novels. Have you ever read Pie in the Sky by Brenda
Yes.
Lai?
Yeah, I love that.
I love that book. And that also helped inspire like the food aspect of this book. I feel like food, like especially for like Asian cultures, is like so central. I think it's central to like all cultures. And like for me, when I think of like my childhood experiences, like the moments that made me feel closest to my culture, it was like when I was like eating the food or like making the food with like my grandparents or my family. It's just like such like a central element to like the culture, and that was something that I really wanted to bring out in this story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that answered the first half of your question.
Yes.
I don't remember
Yes.
the second half.
Yeah. It was like, did you have any intentions when you started writing the story, or did you just like start with something fun and then let the story take over?
I think I kind of did a mix of both. So that's like a confusing answer, but let me explain.
Yeah.
When I started out, all I had like in my head was I want to write just like a really like fun, you know, funny middle grade novel that like doesn't involve too much magic. Like there's little bits of magic here and there, but mostly it's just about like being in middle school and how much middle school sucks. And so I wanted it to like just feel like more contemporary than anything else. So I think I started writing the book when it was like late 2018, early 2019. And I had like 2 pages and I just like got stumped. I was like, there's not enough substance here, because I hadn't like thought things through yet, basically. And then I want to say like about a year later, that was like after I had finished writing the sequel to my debut, The Dragon Warrior, that I realized, oh, my publisher is probably gonna like want to look at my next middle grade idea, so let me revisit this. And so after, you know, like revisiting it, that was when I started like, I guess like just like thinking more deeply about like what do I want the story to say? Like what about my middle school experience can I like put in this book? And you know, if I could give like middle school me just one story to like help her get through middle school, like what kind of book would it be? And yeah, I guess that just sort of helped me eventually like dig to the heart of Winnie Zhang, you know, add all the magic and, you know, all the fun that makes this book what it is.
Yeah. I love to say that I like to write middle grade because like there's a lot of trauma like from middle grade that I like still need to like address. So like help like writing stories help me to like go through those because like it's a traumatic like period in everyone's life. So yeah.
Man, I have to tell you, yes. So yesterday at my in-person launch at You and Me Books, like this bookstore in Chinatown, so I think the first question somebody asked was like, "Oh, like why did you set this book in middle school? Like, what about middle school makes you want to like write about it. And I was like, the trauma.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm still trying to process. Like it has stayed with me all these years
Yes.
later. This is my form of therapy.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, middle
Yeah.
school is like you're going through puberty, you're like probably starting a new school, it's like if it's like California schools where like you go from elementary to middle school. And it's like all these
Yeah.
different changes are happening and yeah, it's a traumatic time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, our next question is so first of all, mooncake, like your like description of them was amazing because it like actually made me want to eat mooncake, which I don't normally want to eat mooncake. I was like, ooh, like now I'm like inspired to make some. So were the recipes your own or like passed down through your family?
So my family does like pass down recipes, but like these specifically, the mooncakes, and then there's like a red bean brownie recipe in the book. They were from like my college years, which
Oh,
like I mean my college years I feel like were actually very formative to me in terms of like reconnecting with my culture, just like learning how to be like proud of my roots, which
yeah,
was something that I didn't think about so much in middle school and high school. And like I was like pretty involved in like just like Asian culture orgs, I would say. And I remember just like making like mooncakes with my friends one time. It was like really complicated. And I honestly never tried again because of how complicated it was. But like it is a fun, like bonding thing to
yeah,
do. And if you like mooncakes, like that's a even bigger plus. Um, yeah. And I think the red bean brownies, like I also made in my college years, like that was when I had more time to just like cook and bake and like,
yeah,
have fun with friends.
yeah. Who has time for
But
that
yeah,
now?
yeah, no time
Yeah.
for that anymore.
I didn't actually know that you could make your own mooncake, which like
Yeah,
of course you could, like you can make anything technically, but yeah, like it does sound really complicated.
I think that the main thing is like you have to buy like these special little molds, because like mooncakes have little like designs on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's
Mhm.
probably the most complicated part. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. So like one of my favorite characters is David, even though he's like their like Winnie's like arch nemesis. And I
Yeah.
really love their friendship. So how did you come up with his character and like what was your inspiration for the dynamic between them?
So far everyone has like really liked David, which I'm glad about because like I wanted to make him like annoying, but only to Winnie. Like I didn't want the reader to ever be annoyed with him. I wanted it to be like their dynamic is just like so like fun that like even when Winnie's like annoyed, like the reader doesn't necessarily always take her side. They're like,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
David has a point. Usually he does have a point, and that's what makes Winnie mad.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but like going back to your question, was it what inspired the character
Yeah,
of
like how did
David?
you come up with his
Okay, yeah.
character?
I honestly, David was just supposed to like represent like the kids that I got compared to when I was younger. He was actually never supposed to take on like such a big role throughout the story. Um, and like so in the beginning, like I think he was kind of one dimensional in that sense. Like he really just reflected all like the seemingly perfect kids um that I would often like get compared to. And that was, I wanted that element because it felt like so true to my childhood that it probably like rang true to other people's childhoods. So it made sense to have Winnie also like have that experience. But then like as I wrote the character and also like because of my editor's notes, I realized actually like David, this character could be so much more than like just like the perfect kid that Winnie tries to like beat and like tests and piano competitions and everything like that. He could actually like grow to be like a reluctant friend or like ally at least,
Yeah.
because I think those relationships are really fun to write. Like I love a good enemies to friends,
Yeah.
or not enemies to lovers because this is middle grade, but enemies to like friends or like allies, because
Yeah.
there's just something so interesting about like putting two characters who are like seem so opposite or conflicting in many ways, into like a plot, a conflict together, and there's no choice but like they're the only ones who can save the world. They have to like work together, And then like they learn how to like each other through that process. There's just something like
Yeah.
so fun about that. And I love writing banter too. I can not write banter.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was really funny. I loved anytime like David came like into the scene, I guess.
I'm so
But
glad.
and like I think it's because like there's like this like idea that like whatever you're annoyed like whatever like if you find something annoying in another person, like that says more about you than it does about them, because that's probably
Yeah.
it's almost like you're projecting, like that
Yeah.
annoying thing is like probably rooted in yourself. So then
Yeah.
like forcing these characters like to be together, it's gonna like help them grow the most, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me, that Pixar movie in Inside Out, where like
Yes.
the like joy is paired with sadness, even though
I
like
watched it a long time ago, so I like barely remember
yeah.
it.
But like sadness at first, like she's very annoying, but then like you start to realize that like she's actually what
Yeah.
makes joy like her joy, So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then it also reminded me of Dread Nation, because like that's like an enemies to friendship story too, by Justina Ireland.
Oh, okay. I was like, the title sounds familiar, but I can't remember like where I
Yeah,
heard it. I need to read that one.
yeah, it's really good. But yeah, okay, awesome. Do you so follow up to that question, do you think you're more of a David or a Winnie or a Lisa? Lisa's Winnie's
So
sister.
right. So for those who don't know, Lisa is Winnie's like really annoying older sister who just like flounces around, and she goes to high school. She's like too cool for Winnie. Um, I I definitely am not a Lisa, even though I am an older sister. um, but I'm not annoying. No, but Lisa, like she's not academically smart, but she's very good at sports, and I'm the total opposite of that. So I can't say I'm Lisa. I don't know. I can't really say that I'm David either, because David is just too good at everything. Like, I mean, like I honestly I would say I have to be Winnie, because like I'm like decent at like most things, I guess. Like I'm okay, but there's always like someone better, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be other people like comparing me to other people. Like I will compare myself to other people and
Exactly.
make
Which your
myself
parents
miserable
probably taught you, so it's not it's not
to
really
some
your fault.
degree.
Yeah. I think I'm more of a Lisa. Like I would have to say, because I'm like a goody two shoes,
Oh,
like I'm
okay.
always like that friend
Oh,
who's like, no, you
okay.
shouldn't do that. So
Yeah.
like, and I do have one younger brother. I have five. I like sometimes lose count, but yeah, like five older siblings and one younger brother. So like I feel like the youngest, but I still have like one younger brother. But yeah, like I'm definitely like that sister who's like, I'm gonna tell on you. You don't do what mom and dad said.
That's Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa is she's a stickler for the rules, but I also feel like she breaks rules without telling Winnie. So like Winnie doesn't know. Lisa
Yeah.
just like wants to get Winnie in trouble.
Exactly. So this book had like such a perfectly light and like very hilarious middle grade voice. Like how do you do that? Like I would like to know your secret.
Well, thank you. I just like to say that like I never grew up. Like I my inner child, I just like embrace it. Like I feel like reading middle grade past like maybe like high school age, like it's all about just being willing to embrace like that part of you that always like yearns like back to your childhood. I still feel like when I was like reading books in like late elementary and middle school, those were like some of the best, most influential books that I read. They're books that I still think about now, like the Percy Jackson series.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read like Camp Jansen, that like detective series.
No.
Trying to think, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That was
Yeah.
huge. It still is huge.
It's
I
still
think.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, and all those books were like, they were so voicey and like
Mhm.
funny, and they made me like just like want to be bigger or like feel bigger.
Mhm.
I feel like middle grade is like all about capturing like a very like big voice, like
Yeah.
and that's where you get like the humor and like the lightheartedness. I don't know. I just really love it. And also like I also like I'm a huge fan of anime, and I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of anime, like even meant for adults, does that really well, where they have like like serious moments, but then like it can also be lighthearted, or maybe it's just lighthearted. Like a lot of shows are really funny. And I do wish we had that for adults also, but like I guess in like the Western world, at least with like Western publishing, like mostly if you want to be like really lighthearted and humorous, you're gonna have to confine that to middle grade. Like I can barely think of any like really like lighthearted adult titles or anything. So yeah, I don't take myself too seriously. Yeah, and I just like I want to have a good time writing, and I want people who are reading the books to also have a good time.
I know. Yeah, I love that. I was like very jealous of your ability to do that because I write middle grade too, but I'm like I always have to like walk that balance of like, oh, seriousness, like take my kids seriously, but also like no, but this is silly.
No, I feel like you strike such a great balance. Like I feel like sometimes like I don't know if you have this issue, but I have this issue where I like write too many jokes in like the book, and then my editor will be it's really bad. It's like every other page. It's like actually we should cut this. Actually we should cut that. Like let's like get to no because like it's bad. It like I like derail the book from the plot. So it's just like let's get back to the story. Like let's move it along. But I feel like your writing really strikes that balance really well. And it captures like the heart of middle grade really well too.
Oh, thank you. But one day you should write like a what's it called? Like a deleted scenes, like PDF.
Oh yeah.
And just like make it available.
It's gonna be longer than the actual book. It's like 500 pages. Just like really silly jokes that nobody asked for.
Have you ever read oh my gosh, Jessica Kim's stand-up
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
it is so funny.
I run like a middle grade tween book club, which you're gonna be on in I think June, right? So like at my library, and she came for March, and she was like she showed us like her stack of notebooks of like jokes that didn't make it into the book because it's about a stand-up comedian. So she was like, I had to write all these jokes, and like most of them didn't make it in there. So yeah, you should do something like that.
That just means she has to keep publishing.
Exactly.
You gotta like find new books to fill all those jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there is a bookstore in your book. It's called the Sun Treader, right? Is it based on like a favorite bookstore? Because like it was very like just very well described and like a whole world within itself. So
yay. It's not based on a specific bookstore. I guess like that like me like deciding to center a lot of like the action of the book around a bookstore was just kind of like my love letter to books and bookstores and libraries, because like those are all very special places to me when I was a kid. Because like as I said before, when I was writing Winnie Zeng, I just like thought a lot about like what were the moments to me that like I remember the most from my middle school years. And like honestly, like this sounds sad, but my fondest memories are like at the library or like at Borders. Do you remember Borders before it closed, the bookstore? Like or and then Barnes and Nobles eventually. Like I would just spend hours and hours and hours, and like back then I barely even had money to buy books, but like just being around them like made me so happy. Like I really feel like there's a lot of magic in bookstores.
Definitely. I related. I relate so hard to that because like on Wednesday, so our middle school was like right behind a public library. So like on Wednesdays we would be let out early, and so my parents like couldn't pick me up at that time, so we would like walk to the library, and like I would just like spend hours at the library like waiting to be picked up from there, so like
I did the same. Like I would stay like after school at the library, and like I think eventually it turned into like just homework time, but like when I was younger and had less homework, that was like my reading time.
Yeah, exactly. I love libraries. And there's something different also about like sitting in a bookstore to read, just because like it's bright and clean and all the books are new, and then you're just like you just sit there for hours reading books. So I love all the references to Sailor Moon. Like I was a total like Sailor Moon, and then Spirited Away. What other movies or anime were your favorite or like have influenced your writing?
Oh man, we're gonna be here for like 10 hours. Like favorite anime? That's tough. I have like anime in like different categories that are I would say are like my favorites. but I guess like it might be more helpful to like think about the ones that influenced me is like when I was younger. So Sailor Moon for sure. My first anime that I watched was Fruits Basket. So that one also like influenced me a lot. Another one that I really love is Death Note, but that in no way influenced this book.
That's
Death
a
Note
good
is like
one
a very
though.
like gritty, like murder, bloody, like thriller
Yeah.
kind of show. I think honestly all like the Studio Ghibli films, like
Hmm.
anything Hayao Miyazaki has done, like that man is a genius.
Yeah.
And like whenever I watch his films, like they just put me in like the perfect middle grade mood. Like I
Yeah.
remember just like watching Spirited Away and just being like in awe and
Hmm.
so just inspired to create.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think yeah, that's I guess that's like the ones that like influenced me the most like when I was younger. And I would say like there was also like sports anime. I don't know if you've like seen any. Not necessarily like influencing this book, but I feel like I like kind of took like the competitiveness of like characters in different sports anime and like gave it to Winnie and David.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly like I have so many like favorite
Yeah.
like shows and everything, and like I can't really say that like any one of them inspired this book, but I think it's just like a combination of like so many different shows,
Yeah.
stories, and they
Yeah.
all like you know that like you can't help but like be inspired by
Yeah.
everything that you've like seen or like really loved.
Yeah. Like at this point, it's like it's just your personality. Like it's just
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. Which Sailor Moon character do you think you were? Like, I think like I was always like Sailor Mercury for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Sailor Mercury. I would have to say Sailor Mercury. Although I always wanted to be like Sailor Moon,
Hmm.
just because like her personality is like so much like bigger and like
Yeah.
extroverted. Like when I was younger, especially, like I would always admire characters like that, like characters who had like so much like spunk and drive and were just like really funny and outgoing. Because I was very much the opposite.
Hmm.
Like it's really funny because I can write characters who are like very sassy and outgoing. Like I would say Winnie is pretty like she puts herself out there.
Yeah.
She definitely like has kind of a big personality, I would say.
Yeah. She's not afraid
Um,
to like say what she
yeah,
really enjoys
yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, but like I think I from what I remember, Sailor Mercury was like a lot more quiet. She like loved books, was like intelligent. That was definitely more of me. Like I was the shy, quiet bookworm kid growing up.
Yeah.
I really don't think any of my classmates are surprised that I became an author. Like I'm pretty sure everybody saw that coming.
Yeah. Because you went to school for like accounting, right? Which is like so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So I
did.
used to work at an accounting firm and like I don't
No
anymore, but
way.
like
Which
I'm just
one?
so it's called Iraj Kesian and Associates, which is like in
Oh,
like
okay.
Torrance. But like I'm so happy that my life no longer revolves around like tax season because like
Yeah.
I would have
Oh,
been
yeah.
really stressed up until like a week ago.
Oh,
But
so
yeah,
did you work in tax?
no, I was like a bookkeeper sort of. Yeah,
Oh,
so like
okay.
I never went to school for accounting. I just like worked at the office.
Oh,
Yeah, but like I did not enjoy it. And like I can't
yeah.
imagine like because like the CPAs there would actually obviously like their jobs, because like they would be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, and I'd be like, but it's so boring. And they'd be like, no, there's like creative ways. They're like, you can be creative with tax. And I'm like, how?
I will say that the people I've met who like love accounting, they like love it. Like they're
Yeah.
so passionate about it. I'm like, I'm
No.
very happy for you. I don't
Yeah.
understand, but I'm very happy for you.
Yeah. Yeah. But yes, we're like, I'm happy you're an author. So I'm sure everyone else is too. So you found the right career path.
Yeah, we found our way.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so back to Sailor Moon. Did you also have a crush on Tuxedo
I
Mask?
did.
Okay,
I
because like
did.
everyone had like a crush on him.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was the tux though.
He was just so like, yeah, he was so it's the like mysterious like
Yeah.
air around him. I
Yeah.
think I always loved like mysterious characters like that.
And he always like showed up at the right moment to like
Yep.
rescue everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, will there be a sequel to the book?
Yes, there will be a
Yay.
sequel.
When is it out?
It comes out a year after this book came out, so I don't have like a set date yet. Also haven't like revealed the title yet, but it's coming like late April-ish next year. Yeah. Yay. So be on the lookout.
Yay, that's exciting. Without revealing the title or like spoiling anything, can you tell us what legends Winnie will have to face next?
So this is a really good question that you're asking because the legends that she's facing are inspired by characters out of like Journey to the West.
Yeah.
And just like more like Chinese mythology. But it's the book itself is set around Halloween. So I kind of wanted to make it a point in this book to like I guess like use a Western holiday because like I mean I just love Halloween like personally like it's such a fun holiday and I always loved it growing up. So I've always like wanted to write a Halloween book and I was like, well I've done like the Mid-Autumn Festival in book one. My debut, The Dragon Warrior, featured the Lunar New Year. And so I kind of like feel like I've done, a lot of Chinese holidays. Now I want to do like a Western holiday, but of course, like it's still very much a Chinese American story at its heart. There's going to be like Chinese mythology and more like Chinese food, which is always great.
Yeah. That's awesome. I actually like didn't like Halloween as much as like a lot of people do. And like I think I just couldn't get into like the dressing up part of it. Like I didn't like dressing up just for like the one day.
But like that's fair.
Did you have like a costume or something that you like always defaulted to as a kid?
Yes. I think it was like either a cat or a witch. Like honestly, it probably all looked the same. It was just like I would just like dress in like head to toe in black. And I would just like call that a costume and then be like, now give me candy.
Yeah.
I think like the trick-or-treating part was definitely my favorite. I had such a sweet tooth when I was younger. It's like a lot less so now, which is good, like good for my teeth and good for my overall health. But yeah, like when I was a kid, like Halloween was like the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I do miss the candy. If you got to write about like any mythological character or story, like outside of Winnie Zeng, what would you want to write about?
Oh, that's a good question. That's interesting because I feel like I've honestly covered like the mythology that I'm familiar with and like would want to write. So I don't really know how to answer that question.
Was there anything
I'm like trying to think like because I like Journey to the West obviously is like
covers a lot.
Yeah, it covers a lot and I think I've covered like all like my favorite figures from like that story or mythology in like all my middle grades to date. I don't know. Do you have any like maybe if you have any like it'll help inspire me?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like, were you obsessed with anything? Because like I was always obsessed with like the nine-tailed fox, and like that pops up in like a lot of different Asian cultures. Yeah. And then of course I was obsessed with the Monkey King. Yeah. And like just like demons in general.
I think like it would probably be cool to write like a story with like featuring a nine-tailed fox like protagonist because I actually did write a nine-tailed fox into my debut novel, but it was just like a side character like figure that like got like quickly defeated by the main character. But I think it'd be really cool to write like a book from like the perspective of nine-tailed fox. I think Kat Cho wrote one, right? Wicked Fox.
Hers is called Wicked Fox, and like not to steal your thunder, Katie, but like my next book is about a nine-tailed fox. But if you wrote a book about a nine-tailed fox,
no, you like, go ahead.
No, we could like do a crossover, like all the nine-tailed fox meeting. But there are many different like versions of the nine-tailed fox, so like I like that would be really cool,
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. So like yesterday I was on a panel and they talked about like how is it difficult to like take liberties with the mythologies from your culture? And then I was like, oh, like I took a lot of liberties with like my like all the mythological stories that I like wrote about. But then I was like one of my favorite superheroes is Spider-Man, and there's like not Spider-Man, yeah, there are lots of like versions of Spider-Man. And like to the point where like now there's even like a spider verse, so this could be like the
Yeah.
monkey verse or like the fox verse, so like it's your
I
version of the
love
story,
that. I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like the Monkey King especially has inspired like a good number of middle grade and young adults now. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like a ton of books, but I can think of like at least 4 or 5. I feel like
yeah,
that's like a solid like we have a monkey verse basically
yeah,
already.
exactly.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up like the concept of like taking liberties with like mythologies because like I mean even me now like being several books into my career, I still often think like I've like tried to do my research to the best of my ability, but I kind of just want to write like the story that I feel like I want to tell, and that might involve like taking some creative liberties with the source material of this mythology, or like taking a character that was portrayed as evil and making them good in my world, or taking a character that was portrayed as good in mythology, and then like making them like questionable in my world. Like I'm just fascinated by like just like different character interpretations in that sense. Um, but yeah, sorry, I just like totally
Yeah,
went off on a tangent, but I have
no,
like a lot of thoughts about taking
yeah.
liberties.
But I agree because like
Yeah,
mythology exists, to like explain or to help the culture like in that given moment. And like if
yeah,
that's like if you want to write a story that will help like you or your readers like now, like you're totally, like you're totally fine doing that, like it's not like you need permission.
right. Well, and I think like I mean, it's only like I feel like it only makes sense that these characters like would have different interpretations. Like if you think about in the real world, like you might have a friend who you think they're like so nice and like they're really great to you, but maybe like they had a really bad experience with another person who is like, oh, I don't like that person. So like people's like opinions of like a person can be so different. So why
Yeah.
shouldn't their opinions or interpretations of a character from mythology be different too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I've always been drawn to like the evil ones, the ones that
Me
like
too.
nobody likes. Like I'm sure they have a good backstory. Yeah.
Right? They have a sob story.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're nearing like our Q&A with the audience, but I have like some fun questions I want to ask you before that. Okay, so what's like so the book deals with like, the lunchbox moment. I think you wrote about that at the beginning of the book where like most immigrant kids will have like that lunchbox moment in the cafeteria where they like bring like ethnic food to school or something, and then like kids around them will be like will say something like, oh, like that's stinky, or like, what is that? So I kind of wanted to talk about food, like in general.
Yeah.
Like, what's your strange food that would have definitely gotten stares at school, but like, who cares because it's so good?
I I I mean I can't like pick like one specific food, but I guess like dim sum is like a whole category. Like I
Yeah,
cannot get enough of dim sum. But I will admit, like if you like don't know what dim sum is and never saw it, then you might look at it and be like, that's like a really
yeah,
like there's so many different like shapes and
yeah.
is that like chicken feed? Which like it's really good, but
Mhm.
yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Like what is your like strange
So I do
food
like
that you
dim
like so
sum,
much?
like, but I
Dim
can
sum?
definitely there's like one that's like translucent and like it's
I
like
know
made
what you're
with shrimp.
talking
Yeah,
about. I
it's
know
like
it's like the
shrimp.
rolls.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But like I can see that that might look strange if you don't know what it is. And then I like so my husband is Mexican, and the first time he had dumplings, he was like, "What is this?" So I can see that. But
Oh.
yeah, um, so like our family used to eat like intestines. Like I don't eat that
Mm.
anymore, but like I remember having like intestines like for dinner. And then we had this like thing that was like a duck blood pudding. And like I know that
Oh,
like blood pudding is like more common like in like British culture, so it might not like seem so
yeah.
strange. But yeah, like thinking back, I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of weird.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like when you're a kid, I think like the thing about like having like a lunchbox moment or something like that, when you're a kid, you grow up eating a certain kind of food. You wouldn't think it's weird until someone else says like, "Oh, that's like so strange. Like, why are
Yeah.
you doing that?" Because it's just normal to you,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But that also just gave me a funny thought. Like, what if like like kids like from Asia like look at like Western food like sandwiches and they're like, "What is that?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so funny
That is
story
a
about
weird food."
yeah. I was thinking the exact same thing about sandwiches. And the reason that sandwiches existed, okay, like just think of the word sandwich, like it doesn't mean anything. Like it's just a name. And like now you know that it refers to what is a sandwich. But like it was literally like this dude who was called, whose name was the Earl of Sandwich. And like he like like invented sandwiches because like was like eating and like doing something at the same time. And he wanted to figure out a way where he could like eat all of his food at once instead of just like picking like you know a piece of bread or like a piece of salami. So then he invented the sandwich, and it's called that because
That's
his name
so
is the Earl of
funny.
Sandwich. So
Oh, that
anyway,
is so funny. I love that.
yeah, sorry, super random. Yeah. So are there like any like common favorites like that you think everyone should try, like other than
Uncommon favorite foods
yeah,
or
yeah,
oh. Well, I have to say like dim sum again.
yeah.
Although, you know what? I feel like most of my like favorite foods have sort of become a little more mainstream over the years.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I just always loved Asian food, like all kinds of Asian food. And I feel like now like Asian food has become like really popular, which is like
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
But I guess like yeah, everyone should just try more Asian food in general, all of
yeah.
it. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Yesterday I tried a rice pudding. It was like, oh, it was a purple rice and yogurt pudding. I think
Ooh.
it's like I think it's like Southeast Asian. I'm not sure like what country exactly. It was really good.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that sounds really good.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. Now I'm also thinking about that question. Like what's an unfavorite, one
Yeah.
uncommon favorite. I really like this like steamed rice roll, and it's usually filled with like beef and like some sort of
Oh,
mushroom.
yeah, I think I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I can eat spring roll sauce with anything. And like that is
Yep.
just made of like fish sauce and lemon or like lime juice and sugar and like
That sauce
pepper.
is so good
I
though.
know. Yeah. I'm just like, I just want that on everything. Like anything
Yeah.
that's associated with that sauce, like I could eat it all the time. Okay, one last fun question, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. So, what's the one torture that you put your character through that you're so glad you don't have to do now as an adult? Like for me, that would be like piano lessons.
Yeah. I really did. So I like read this question beforehand, and I thought about the question, and I was like, wow, I really put Winnie through a lot.
Yeah.
She like goes through everything that I hated as a
Yeah,
kid.
like tutoring and piano lessons. I was like, this poor child.
Yeah, yeah, and like Chinese school.
Mhm.
I feel like I also want to say piano because like now that I'm older and I have a lot more perspective, I'm actually pretty glad I went to Chinese school.
Mhm.
And like the thing about Chinese school was like I still had like friends who I was like happy to see whenever I went. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like all misery. Um, but like piano, I don't know if I can't really say the same thing because piano
Yeah.
lessons are like one-on-one. I
Mhm.
like had to play piano every day, and then like I just like dropped it when I was
Old
like in
enough.
early high school. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
now I'm like useless. Like
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin. I can't even play chopsticks. So
Yeah, that's really
yeah.
funny because like I have the exact same experience. So like my parents made me go to Vietnamese school, but like now
Oh
that
my
I'm an
gosh.
adult, I'm like, okay, yes, like I can
Yeah,
understand the
yeah, yeah.
benefits of that.
Yeah,
But like I
yeah,
also had to take piano, and I was like, why? Like I have no interest in this
yeah.
stupid instrument. Like why do I have to
Yeah,
go?
right. It's
Yeah,
like
and
with at least with language schools, like I mean, I'm glad I can at least like order food in Chinese. Like that's like the extent of it. But like I can do that much. Or if like, you know, somebody's lost, which happens all the time in New York.
yeah,
Like for some reason Chinese grandmothers love to come up to me and like just assume I'm Chinese
yes,
and then just like ask me for directions and I'm like, you know, like just
yeah,
like
yeah.
panic help them.
Yeah, you look very approachable. Like if I was a grandmother, if I was an older grandmother, I would approach you for directions.
That's like the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, that concludes my question. So I think we're gonna move on to the Q&A now. And I think John might jump back. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have some Q&A questions. Thank you. That was so fun. The first two questions, I think I'll open up to both of you. Our first viewer wants to know where do you see yourself in 5 years? And maybe I'll expand on that question a bit if I may. Talking to a lot of writers through this series, and authors, it's interesting to hear about what they've done with writing beyond their books. So whether that's dipping into other mediums or see a lot of authors now writing for TV, stuff like that. So curious to both of you, what kind of aspirations do you have for your author careers, and if there might be anything beyond the medium of the book as well.
Wow. I'm like, I haven't even like thought past 5 months, but
I know.
I'll give it a shot. I actually thought about writing for TV when I was in college, and then I took an intro to film course that I really hated, and it turned me off like all film.
Oh no,
I
like why?
well, yeah, I just like didn't, right, but I was like, well, I wasn't like so invested in like being a TV writer that I could like make it through what I perceived to be like kind of a grueling course. Um, but like the idea of like writing novels has always like just like and like it's always been like something I want to do. Like I've always been so passionate about it. I like always did it outside of class. Um, so I don't know if I see myself like turning to a different medium, but I definitely see myself like continuing to just like write and like hopefully publish more. Yeah, I think in 5 years, that'll be 2027. Maybe how many books do I have out now? Five? Maybe I'll have like 12
Wow.
to 15.
Like one a year. Yeah. One.
Right?
Yeah.
Or no. Yeah, like 12. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Something
crazy.
like that. That's like cool to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I guess for me, like same, I don't like want to write in like other fields. But although like if you think about like a screenplay, like I'm not saying like it wouldn't be as hard to write a screenplay, but like that takes out like so much of the prose, like all you have to write is the dialogue, like a little bit of the description. Like that seems like, oh my gosh, like so much easier right now. So like maybe I would like attempt to, or like that would be like, I've always thought of it as like, oh, I could write a first draft as like like a very bad screenplay, and then like fill it in, to become a novel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think I might like move on to like adult novel writing as opposed to like middle grade. Just because like I'm starting to exhaust all the trauma that I could like, exploit from those years. And like a lot of the like bad things I want to do to my characters, I can't do to like a middle grade character.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wait, now that you like mentioned that, I'm thinking like, yeah. I feel like I've said all that needs to be said about middle school. Like I've warned all the children by now. Now it's time to like move on to like the young adult audience, the adult audience. Let them know how terrible the world is.
I don't think I would ever write for young adult though, just because like I was afraid of teens when I was a teen, and I'm still afraid of them now. So like no, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, they're a tough audience to like sell to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
The next question, and again, I open up to both of you. What does a writer's life look like? To maybe just day to day, how you structure your writing time, and what do you enjoy doing most outside of writing?
For me personally, I write full time, and I pretty much just treat my job as like a regular 9 to 5. I used to do like office work. I used to work in accounting. So I just took that structure, and like now I just like do writing within that time. So, typically I'll just like get up and try to do like a quick workout. And then after that, like start the day around like, I guess like 9 or 10. Usually if I'm on deadline, that involves like doing my writing or revising whatever stage of the process the manuscript is in. Usually like my brain will be like dead by 3. And at that point I'll start answering emails till like the end of the day. Sometimes, especially if it's like a busy week, like this week, like a launch week, then I'll have, other just like events to do. But honestly, like my schedule can be pretty flexible or up in the air. Sometimes like I don't have any work at all. So I'm just like, cool, I'll just like take the day off and like read or like, go see people. But yeah, day to day, I would say like I try to keep like a pretty, structured day, just because like I don't know, I like filling up my days. I really like writing, And I just know that if I don't sort of try to structure my days, then I might not write as many words as I would like to in the time that I need to.
Yeah. Do you have like a daily word count goal?
I don't. I feel like I used to, but then there would be like days where I wouldn't hit it and I would just feel like, oh, I'm such a failure. But then I would like think and be like, wait, but anyone else who wrote like 1,500 words in a day would be really happy with that. Like, why am I putting like these arbitrary like goals on myself that like honestly it doesn't even matter at that point. So I was just like, you know what, I just like, as long as I write within this time frame and I can generally like hit my deadlines, like we're good.
Yeah, I used to like also like same like I had a word count goal of like 2000, and then like there would be days where I'd be like, oh, just like crank out all these words to like meet that goal, and then like in the end like you end up like either revising over that or like deleting it. So it's like, why does it matter? Like in the end, you know, like as long as you like you feel good about your writing. But yeah, like your days sound like a dream. I have a I have a full-time job, although like I love my job. Like I'm a librarian, and like it's funny because I decided to pursue that like career as like as a, what's it called? Oh my god, like in case the author thing didn't work out, like as a backup. There you go.
Backup, yeah,
as a backup. And then, you know, like actually like to work at a library or like to become a librarian, you have to have like a master. So it wasn't like like it wasn't as like an easy backup. So then it was like, well, now I'm committed and I love my job. So like I don't think I'll ever like quit. But like I would wake up like really early. Like I work like evenings, but like it's more like 11 to 9. So like I would wake up early, like and try to get as much writing done as possible and then head into work. But yeah, like no clear.
I remember those days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, you said something earlier that like brought up a really good point. Just like, yeah, when you have a writing goal and you're just like not on your writing game that day, then you're just like writing nonsense and you're wasting your own time basically. Like like I do have days like where I sit down and I'm like trying to write and I'm like the words just, I don't have any inspiration today. And at that point I'm like, all right, today's not a writing day. I'm just gonna like take it off and try to like read. And generally like if I like immerse myself in other people's words, that also I consider that to be part of my process because all of that like flows into my own like creativity and inspiration. Like it's all prep work for like when I am ready to write.
Yeah. And then sometimes like I will hit like a point in the plot where I'm like, I have no idea like what, like I have no idea how to fix these problems that I myself set up, you know? So then like the best way, like the best times that I have like figured those out is like if I go for like a long walk and I'm just like thinking, like not even thinking about the book, just like I'll see like a bird flying and I'll be like, oh my God, like I got it. Like I know how to fix this now, you know? So like
dedicate the book to the bird.
Yeah. So like that's all part of writing, like, you know, like in my opinion.
It is, yeah.
Thank you. We have time for, I think, one more question. And a viewer wants to know, Katie, do you have any other middle grade ideas you're dreaming up after Winnie?
Ooh, so I do have one I have been like sort of playing around with for a couple of years. I haven't even started writing this one because now I just have like multiple deadlines. Like it's just too much. But this one would be like completely contemporary, and I'm not sure if I can do that. I can do that with young adult and adult, I think, just because like I don't know. I feel like those like age categories, like I have just so much more to say, like that I can't necessarily like I don't know if I like remember enough about middle school years to like be able to like solely write it in a contemporary setting. Also because the middle grades that I love the most growing up are like fantasy, but I do have an idea and we'll see if anything comes out of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've reached the top of the hour. Katie and Van, thank you so much for joining us at Home with Literati today. You can, of course, purchase books in the description below me if you're watching on YouTube, but there's also a link to purchase Winnie Zeng Unleashes a Legend in the chat as well if you're watching us live. Hope we can have you both in the store for your next books. and in Ann Arbor, and hopefully when it's warm too, it's somehow 40 degrees in the end of April in Michigan right now. But we'll hope you both stay well, and to all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Take care. I'll have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.